from Central Kentucky's WCYN studios. You're listening to Quarantainment, a live entertainer's response to COVID-19. Each week, we interview industry professionals from around the world and gain insights into how they're coping with the adverse effects of the coronavirus and creatively adapting to the new normal. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome to the proverbial stage award-winning illusionist, escape artist, actor, your host, and creator of the Quarantainment podcast. This is Reed Masterson.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Quarantainment, the socially distant podcast. I'm Reed Masterson. It's 5 p.m. on Monday, May 11th, and this is episode 2. If this is your first time with us, you can watch live via Facebook by searching at Masterson's Magic or listen live via Central Kentucky's WCYN's 101.3 FM. You can also listen live via their mobile app as well as WCYN.com. On this week's episode, I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing whom I consider to be one of the most original and unique performing artists of the 21st century. He is hailed as the most popular and in-demand illusionist of this generation, combining the art of magic and the macabre. Direct from Las Vegas, Nevada, it is my pleasure to welcome to the proverbial stage the Anti-Conjuror himself, Shock Illusionist Dan Sperry. Dan.
Yo.
What's up, man?
Oh, not a whole lot, just having a coffee.
Having a coffee.
That's about it. Yeah, about it.
And it is what it's like 10 o'clock
It's just past. Yeah, it's just after 10:30.
Okay.
Pushing quarter till in the morning, but you're asking me what time it is. I don't even know what day it is right now. So
yeah, it's hard to know. It's Monday as people are watching this, so that's good. Monday.
Oh, that's right.
Monday.
Did I just expose like the wizard behind the curtain? This isn't live. Did I just?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean,
okay.
We used to do magic for a living. You used to not tell people how things worked, but it's a new it's a new normal, so it's fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Dan, so for anybody out there, any of the viewers or listeners that may not be familiar with you or your work, give us a brief synopsis that sums up the life and career of the one and only Dan Sperry.
I guess I don't know. Magic. Magic's what I do. That's how we met and became friends, through magic, right? And been doing it. Grew up in Minnesota. Was doing it since I was a kid in Minnesota, and then moved around quite a bit, performing. After graduating high school, still went to university. Eventually graduated. Took me about 8 years. I got a diploma somewhere. Don't use it. Doesn't mean anything because I don't use it. Now I maybe otherwise. I don't know. But yeah, and just hustling. Been hustling for my whole life. 6 days and a Sunday is what I call it. We live 6 days, 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. That's the saying that I use. We live 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. We don't really have weekdays. You might get a day off once in a while, but most of the 6 days we're hustling and we're working. Sort of. I mean, I don't know if you've heard or used this sort of comparison too. It's when we do shows, that's actually the easy part. People think you're paying for the show, and in a way you are, but that's the easy part, is doing the gig, doing the show and the performance. That's the easy part. That's the fun part. What they're actually paying us for, and what they don't usually see, is the travel and the reinvestment and the rehearsal time and everything, all the time that's been put in behind the scenes that you don't see, that goes into making the show. So like that. But 6 Saturdays and a Sunday, spending all that, every day possible, and every once in a while you might go like, you know what, I don't feel like doing emails today. or something. So then you pick your Sunday. It's not always on Sunday,
Yeah, no, and yeah, it's weird. Trying to explain that to people I know, family or friend, like, because there's a lot of time, even when, like, for somebody like you, you're like super busy traveling around the world and whatever, in a normal world, not coronavirus world, but in a normal world, traveling all around the world, you still spend a decent amount of time home. You're not, I mean, you go home a lot, but you're never home. You know what I'm saying? Like even during coronavirus, you're working and you don't have any money you're not making any money, but you're still working the whole time. Like there's so much work that goes into everything behind the scenes, and people think, oh, well, you're home, like you can come visit, you can come do this, or we can come over. I'm like, no, like I have more time when I'm on the road than I do when I'm home
Yeah.
usually.
No, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And you get it, that's exactly how it is. Well, one thing about this lockdown and this Corona thing is I knew that I didn't really have a hobby before, but now I definitely know, like, I don't really have anything outside of magic. I had a couple little things I'll play around with. Like, I still kind of watch wrestling, or, I'm still into like UFO stuff, but I can do all of that remotely. On the road, I can still watch or look up, YouTube clips or read blogs or something like that. But like, I don't make model train sets. I don't golf. I don't whatever crochet. When it was like, boom, quarantine, stuff's all on lockdown. It's hard to even go to Home Depot or something to get
Yeah.
Something to try to, work on a new idea. That's now even more difficult. So, it was really like, whoa, like, what? Okay, I now I don't know what to do. I really realized I really don't have like a zenful hobby, for lack of a better term. I don't really have a thing that I turn to. Like people that work 9 to 5. That's another thing that I think we don't really know. And I don't want to speak for you, but like I don't know what 9 to 5 is. I don't know what a vacation is, because anytime you have time for that. If anytime you have time for that, I spend more time getting antsy, and I become unbearable to be around because I can't help it. My brain just keeps working, and I can't. I almost can't enjoy myself. If I could do double duty, like you go to a movie, but I don't even like going to a movie in a theater because I can't be on my laptop at the same time. Or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's actually really good to hear you say that, because like, I don't get to spend a lot of time with entertainers. I talk to a lot of people or whatever, but like, with Ashton and stuff, like I'm like, I can't watch a movie, like, hardly, like, I got to check my phone, or like I need to go and do this, go do that, or I'm constantly have ideas or this, I can't stay concentrated on quote unquote unimportant things. Not to mean that they're not important, but like going and spending time with family, a lot of times it's like it's almost it almost feels like a chore, and you feel bad because you're supposed to be involved, you're supposed to be there, you're supposed to be paying attention, but your mind doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And it's so weird, and like trying to explain that to people, that you can't explain it to anybody that doesn't get it, like that doesn't do it as well.
Yeah.
So I've never actually talked to anybody about that, or heard like, I mean, I assume a lot of people are like that, but I've never had that conversation. So it's yeah, I
Yeah. I mean,
totally
maybe.
get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's like I don't know, you might have friends or family members or something that are in like a corporate type job, let's say, where maybe it's really cutthroat. Maybe they work on Wall Street or whatever, and you hear about those kinds of things, like, oh my God, at work, so and so in the board meeting, you might hear a family member or a friend be like, yeah, in the board meeting, they totally whatever snuck in and pitched a different idea to the boss before I could pitch it, and now and it's like, really, is that's, I mean, and not to, I want to make it clear, I'm not discrediting that. It's a different kind of race, but in entertainment, it is truly completely different, and unless you're in it, I feel like you almost can't even explain it, because it's cutthroat, but in a completely different way. It's
100%.
It's not even necessarily a race to the top. It's a race to the next whatever the next intersection, even.
Yeah.
You're just trying to even get one block further, let alone up the hill, because there's always somebody else. And whereas, like, with entertainment, even, it's so easy to almost fake it, because so many prosumer tools are available, apps and programs that are either for free or cheaply downloadable. Anybody can make a demo video, almost, because you do graphics as well. You can look at, and I won't name names, but probably like you look at somebody's stuff and you go, it's like garbage. I wouldn't hire that, but somehow they're finding, like, everything is there. They're always trying to get you. Everybody's, I mean, I'm not out to get anybody unless they really upset me. And even then, a lion never loses sleep over the opinion of sheep and all that, as the saying goes and stuff. But it all come around. But at the same time, there's almost like this. Do you ever play, like, with your friends, like baseball or whatever, where you have ghost man on third, I got a ghost man on second.
Yeah.
Growing up, like a ghost player, you're almost against yourself. You're against real competition, and then it's almost like you're racing against ghost players. You don't know who's there, but it's like there's ghost players, and those ghost players could be anybody. It's probably somebody you don't even know about, but they could bust out of nowhere and start. Now they're in the pot.
And the rules to the game change all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, and
that's the thing too. You're running to second base, and then all of a sudden there's not a second base anymore. You got like there's a 1.5 base or whatever. Like it's so random with. I think especially with Magic, because it's because there's very little. There's very, very little rule book to Magic. Like there's a lot less successful magicians and stuff like that. So, like, to have the rule book written, as in, like, the music industry, not saying that that's easy, but it's way more relevant, way more prevalent than Magic is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's so much easier to fake with Magic too. I mean, people can fake their YouTube views. They can fake their Facebook or Instagram following. They can, it's easier, and I know you don't do it, and I don't do it either. But there's a lot of guys that lie, and they'll fake the numbers, they'll fudge the numbers, they'll fudge even performances. You can't really do that with acting or whatever. I mean, guys will go and this is a lame example, but it's very true. A person, like, let's say a magician, John Smith, will go see a show somewhere. Let's say he'll go see a show at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. He'll go see the Nutcracker Ballet at Christmas, but do a card trick in the lobby for his wife, and then put on his resume, performed at the performed at the Kennedy Center, or something like that. Or they'll take a Carnival cruise and try and do something at the buffet.
Yeah.
And show a little trick, and then they'll put on their websites or on their demo video, perform for Carnival Cruise Lines. And it's like, no, you really didn't. It's much easier. In my opinion, it's much easier in our niche of entertainment to kind of fake it, as opposed to, if you're a singer, an actor or a comedian, magician might be in the same sort of, because comedians can do the same. I told a joke at the well, it's not Monte Carlo, but whatever. I did a joke at the Paris in the buffet at the Paris Hotel in Vegas. Got a lot as thing. I don't know, you know. So yeah, it's very. I think magic's the worst, and I don't like this term, but you know, the term "fake it till you make it." Magic's, I think, really kind of rough for that. You know, too many guys do the "fake it till you make it" thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Hey, so let's we're talking about the coronavirus. You know, that's kind of what this podcast is all about. So, you know, as you know, as well as everybody else, you know, this crazy pandemic has affected the entirety of the human race. So, like, no one's been left out. And from a business standpoint, in my opinion, the live entertainment industry has been hit the hardest. So, in what ways has this negatively impacted your career?
Well, I don't want to say where do you start, you know, but I mean, in the beginning, maybe like everybody, I kind of thought, sure, you know, a couple weeks might lose a gig or so, you know, because people trying to figure it out. Did not expect that the whole calendar or slate or whatever will be completely wiped off, you know, for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future. It's and also initially too, I thought that entertainment and well, no, I won't say I incorrectly, but in a way I incorrectly uh, relied on how historically in times of uh, of need, for lack of a better term, because this, you know, this has been this is rang true and been proven from the Great Depression, World War II, you know, whatever. Historically, live entertainment has been what people have turned to as an escape, even when there isn't uh, uh, um, a panic or a pandemic or whatever you want to call it, recession, because it's you can't even necessarily compare it to what we're going through right now, because historically there's been different uh, almost societal or cultural hurdles or whatever, you know, like I was saying, Great Depression, war, whatever. People have turned to live entertainment, vaudeville or whatever, you know, given the time frame. But so I thought, like, well, we'll probably be okay. You know, maybe some of the bigger shows or the bigger gigs, nobody's going to go to that. But on maybe a more local, geographical situation, they're going to look for something, you know, to escape and to have uh, a release from the stress or the fear, whatever you want to label it. And that happened, but not the way I thought it was going to happen. So I in a way incorrectly sort of relied on historical behaviors, but in a way that still happened because everybody's been talking about Tiger King,
Yeah.
you know. So like they're getting their entertainment, but and then it's bred shows like what you're doing, and you know, especially, you know, variety performers that you know, doing these virtual shows, and you know, through Zoom or something like this, you know, um, it's bred a new medium for us to try to sell our show. So I would I was right. I'm not saying I'm right and I know everything. So I was right in a way, but it didn't unfold the way I thought it would. So it it became a a a a rush or an immediate need to learn how to utilize technology and this sort of lockdown, you can't go anywhere, to try to interact and entertain people through a screen from a distance now. Whereas, again, going back historically, a lockdown or quarantine, whatever you want to call it, hasn't really been something that we or even our parents would know about. So we don't really have a source to hear about. Well, what, back in my day, we used to, we we're the ones going to be saying, well, back in my day when we were in quarantine, that's the first time this has ever happened. So we've been having to reinvent entertainment,
Yeah.
in a way. We've been having to reinvent entertainment and how to reach people and interact and provide a release and provide an escape for them, you know.
Yeah, and it's been the need and demand for it has had to be created faster than anything else we've ever had to create, and that's a scary thought. And it's kind of the reason I created the podcast is to try and give, there's a lot of entertainers that aren't developing in this manner. So it's to give hope to entertainers around the world and prove that this is not the end. It's just the beginning of like a new era. Because I believe that, kind of like you've already said, I believe that if we view this as an opportunity for growth, we will come out stronger than we could even imagine possible prior to this. So with that kind of idea in place, like I wanted to touch on, like, how have you've already mentioned virtual shows and whatever, but how have you grown thus far and creatively adapted, or how are you continuing to creatively adapt to this new normal, as like everybody likes to call it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I'll be the first to admit, like, I was behind the curve of getting into this opportunity to provide shows and entertainment through a screen, through like a Zoom or a Skype, which is what a lot of people are doing. I came a little later to that party because, sort of like what we were talking about before we went live here, is that, we're on the road so much. To be off the road, forced off the road, and be forced to sit still. It's almost like, having, if there's, a spazzy kid or something, and you're trying to get him to sit down in church, just sit down, and make him sit.
Yeah.
It was almost like that. Like, now it's like, okay, well, I got to sit here, instead of, for me at least, instead of being like, well, I'm going to start providing an opportunity for clients to book a show or an experience digitally. I instead went maybe more analog, for lack of a better term. And so I went and found other creative outlets to where I worked on concepts that I've had for a long time, but never really had the time, or never had the opportunity to make the time to really sit down and try and see through ideas, write them out, make some prototypes. So I was a bit more hands-on, craft night constructive, and productive, as opposed to jumping on okay, I'm gonna still try and sell my shows to clients through a Zoom thing, or like I was saying, a Skype, or Google Hangouts, or the different platforms that you can do that with. I went more old school analog and hands-on crafty. That's more where I went. in that direction, going back to old school sleight of hand stuff that I hadn't really touched or worked on in years. And in a way, though, that brought me joy and real smiles in a time where maybe people aren't experiencing that, even though I'm not working or doing the gigs. If anything, I'm losing the gigs that I had booked. But that sort of reminiscence of, oh yeah, I remember working on this, and oh yeah, that's right. And what was that? How did that go again? Right. Okay. Probably for the viewers, it sounded like I was speaking Martian, but like your internal dialogue when you're playing with this stuff, especially as a magician, that's that's really where my brain and stuff went for, the first bit of the time. And then when it got extended, I'll admit I went into a dip. I kind of went into a dip of oh my God, more of this. It's almost like I ran out of gas. I blew my wad in that initial lockdown section. Then when it kind of got extended, I was like, well, man, I pretty much, like, I was going. My creative juices were going. I was writing. I was making the little whatever I needed. Getting the soldering iron out. Like, I'm killing it. This is great. I've never had this time before. And then I pretty much got everything done that I could think of that I wanted to do. And then with the extension, that's when I came back and went, okay, well, now I need something else to fulfill that creative void. And then that's when I kind of went like, okay, yeah, I should start looking into utilizing this also for the better, to promote myself and provide, things like this, like, like what you're doing, like the digital or virtual show experience or podcast or etc. So I was a bit late to that party, but either way, still just trying to use the time as best you can. Still haven't done my taxes yet, but I got everything else done that I really wanted to do. And really, being creative and working on your show is more important than taxes.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. Like, they put an extension on that, so we're good. We're good. Yeah. So we have to take a quick commercial break.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was broadcast live on WCYN here in Central Kentucky, 101.3 FM. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back. Hey guys, this is Reed Masterson, and I just wanted to hop back in here real quick and say thank you guys so much for hanging out with us during episode 2 of Quarantainment, the socially distant podcast. You're listening to my friend Dan Sperry and I talk about, stories of the road, how we're coping with the coronavirus, and all of that good stuff, and just about anything else we can possibly think of over like the next hour. But I wanted to hop in here real quick during this commercial break and give an unsolicited shout out to my friend Dan for joining me on this journey during episode 2. And I wanted to let you all know that Dan has created a complete virtual experience that you can witness live on your screen, whether that be in your home, in your workplace, whatever event you need that requires virtual entertainment during this time. So head on over to dansperry.com, hover over the show, go down to virtual show, and then watch this video.
I'm Shock Illusionist Dan Sperry, the Anti-Conjuror. I tour the world performing my original brand of magic, shock illusion, mischief, and mayhem for audiences from Broadway to Berlin, Hollywood to Paris, and everywhere in between. You've probably even seen one of my viral videos freak out the internet, or one of my international TV appearances, amazing viewers in studio as well as those watching at home. And now you can experience my show live and directly through your screen. My virtual magic encounter streams live to you and your group with an exclusive and customized show where you witness close-up and sleight-of-hand magic, professionally pre-recorded performance clips from my international tours, interactive mind reading that happens through the screen, and more. Not only that, but some of the illusions will happen in your own hands right there at home. My live streaming show is just like my touring live show, original and unlike anything you've seen or experienced before. It is professionally produced in my warehouse studio with 2 HD cameras, high-end professional lighting, sound, backdrop, set pieces, and transitions. And at the end, I'm always happy to hang and chat with you guys for a 10 to 15 minute Q&A where you can ask me things like about my experience as a semi-finalist on America's Got Talent. What was it like being featured on the hit TV show Cake Boss? How was it being the frontman and breakaway star of the best-selling magic show in Broadway history? Or even if you want to know, what's my favorite color? It's purple, by the way. Some of the answers might not be as interesting as you expect. Regardless, for more information on how you and your group can join me for your own virtual magic experience, hit us up at info@dansperry.com and we'll be in touch with you with more information. Hopefully to see you through the screen soon.
And we're back to the Quarantainment Podcast. Here's your host, Reed Masterson.
Welcome back to the Quarantainment Podcast. If you're just now tuning in, I am chatting with my good friend and fellow entertainer, Shock Illusionist Dan Sperry, the Anti-Conjuror. You with me, Dan?
Oh yeah, guten Morgen.
I love it. Well, before we get into this, I wanted to say thanks, man, for kind of joining me on this journey. A few weeks ago, I would have never imagined that I would be doing a podcast. It was never something I wanted to do. I've done some radio stuff. I've done some commercials, some voiceover work and stuff like that. And I didn't have a podcast studio. I didn't have a setup. I didn't have a microphone. I had nothing. I had none of these things. And within like 7 days, I had all this crazy stuff. So it's weird. And so much has changed so fast in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, but you know what? In the end, though, coming out, people like you with what you're doing, here's a whole new, you got a whole new thing going on here that you know how to do, that you can utilize and incorporate. And
Yeah.
Really, I mean, once this is over and stuff starts opening up, I mean, it's already starting to open up here in Vegas slowly. I don't know about over there, but again, like what we were talking about, once you get back on the road, you don't really have time for these sort of side projects all the time. But hopefully you can keep this going because you got something good here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know how long the quarantainment aspect of it will hold its relevancy, but
You just changed the name.
But maybe. I mean, I'm pretty sure people will be talking about COVID-19 for a long time. So it's I don't think it's going. The thought of it's not going away anytime soon. That's for sure. So in
right, yeah.
In the first half, we talked about we talked about COVID-19 and how we as entertainers are trying to adapt. But this half, I want to focus a little bit more on your career prior to coronavirus. So I want to dive a little deeper into the rabbit hole that is Dan Sperry. So I have a few questions that I think people will find interesting, and then I also have a few questions that people have submitted from some of our listeners. So,
on. Okay.
Yeah, so I think this, we got some cool things. We'll see what happens. So as entertainers, we tend to be, we tend to lead what most would call an interesting life, which means we tend to have some crazy stories to tell. So one of my, I know you've got some crazy stories because you've told me some crazy stories. So what is something that maybe that you can tell publicly, that's all right to say live on the radio or whatever, that's some crazy funny story.
That eliminates a lot on the site. Let me think. A crazy story, and probably one of the most bizarre, eerie experiences I ever had was I was living in Chicago, right? I grew up in Minnesota, but just to give some some backstory, grew up in Minnesota, turned 18, graduated high school, and I moved out and I relocated and I moved to Chicago, right? And so I had this little studio apartment in Chicago, crammed in with doves and parakeets and my cockatoo and all that in this little studio apartment. And because in the Midwest, at least, there's snow and all the seasons. And, I'm just going to say it. Other states are like, they all use the same, sort of little gag of like, oh, if you don't like the weather, wait 24 hours. Like, oh, if you don't like the weather in Oklahoma, wait 24 hours. No, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, go to the Midwest. Like, oh, you don't like Florida, wait 24 hours. No, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're not, well, Florida's like, they got their own problems. They're weird. And so, like, but I'm just saying as an example. But anyway, so I got off on a tangent, but the Midwest is nightmare fuel, especially when you get up in like North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin area, nightmare fuel, pure nightmare fuel for weather. And so same sort of Illinois. So in Chicago, I had my little studio apartment. There was a parking lot, but also underground parking, because for weather purposes, everybody was assigned a parking spot, right, in this underground parking garage. I lucked out, and my parking spot was in the underground parking against the wall. So I had to park up against the wall. And as once I lived in Chicago, I had a little studio apartment, so I had props and things that I had around me in my apartment, but some stuff just didn't fit. I lived on the second floor. There was no elevator, so it's not like I could get bigger props up and down the stairs. So what I did was I would park my car above ground in the elements, in the weather, and I used that parking spot. There was a big pipe in that, that went across my parking spot, my designated parking spot. So I had road cases because I didn't want to pay for and couldn't afford a storage unit. So I had road cases that I daisy chained together and then chained around this pipe with padlocks so nobody could steal them or mess with them or anything. And then I'd throw a tarp over them and push them all in this parking spot. I eventually got in trouble for it, but I would stay up until like 2 or 3 in the morning when people weren't coming and going to work and using that underground parking spot or that underground parking garage. And that's when I'd go down there and I would, I'd sort of repurpose, or I'd repair props, spray paint, lay down a drop cloth, doing all that. Because I also didn't want, like, if there were cars parked next to me, I didn't want the owners of that car or those cars even to think like, dude, what are you doing? Your spray paint's gonna get on my car, which it probably did, but I was like 18, I didn't give a crap, you're just young and dumb and angsty, whatever. So anyways, I'm down in this parking garage at probably like 2:30, 3 in the morning one night, and I was repairing and repainting my sub trunk, my Metamorphosis trunk. And those of you that are listening that don't know exactly what that is, it's basically it's an illusion, a magic trick, an illusion that was made famous by Harry Houdini, and it's over the years become modernized. But it's essentially a solid wooden packing crate you get locked in, and in an instant you change places with your assistant who is outside of this packing crate. So I have this packing crate and I'm repainting it and fixing the hinges for the lid and the locks and all that, and I'm giving it a facelift with all the paint and, like I said, all the tools and stuff laid out in this parking spot. 2:33 in the morning, and all of a sudden the parking garage entry door, because you had pull in an entry to put in a code. That's how you got in the underground parking. So 2:33 in the morning, all of a sudden, door starts going up. Someone's coming in, and it would always give me anxiety. I'm like, oh God, like who's this gonna be? Is this gonna be someone that's gonna narc me out and be like, this dude, he's either cooking meth or I don't know what he's doing down there, but he's up to no good, So I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And so this little like Dodge Omni, like piece of junk, hatchback 80s, specialty, zooms down, zigzags around, and starts coming towards where I'm at. And now I'm going, oh no, here we go. Pulls up to me, and there's the pieces of the trunk kind of laid out. The trunk's half put together and blah, blah, blah. Pulls up, the passenger window goes down, and there's this elderly woman in the driver's seat. The window goes down, and she stops, and I'm like, oh no, she's gonna yell at me or chew me out. But also, what's this old lady doing up at 3 a.m? What's she doing down here, right? Window goes down, and she goes, "Are you making a Houdini box?" And I go, "What?" Yeah, actually, yes, I am. And she said something like, "It looks like a Houdini box." And then the passenger window goes back up, and she zooms around and goes out the exit of the road, because you could only come in one way and out the other. You couldn't go back forward. So she came in, over here, drove around, came up to me, says the business, we have our interaction. She zooms out, automatic door goes up. She goes out, door comes down. Never saw her again. Never saw the car. It was the weirdest thing. And it wasn't the spray paint. I wasn't hallucinating from the spray paint, not having proper ventilation or anything like that. It happened. I saw the car. It was the weirdest thing ever. This 80 whatever year old lady coming in. Are you making a Houdini box? Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yeah, I am. It looks like a Houdini box. I thought so. And then takes off, and never saw her again. She never said boo to anybody, as far as I know. And yeah, that was one of the weirdest things. I can talk about that one. That was
yeah. But that's wild. But only somebody her age would know. Like it has to be somebody that's that age that thinks about that, because
oh yeah.
when she saw it,
sure.
50 years prior to that was the most amazing thing she ever seen by somebody. And at that point in time, she may have been.
Healing, I'm sure, back then.
So that's crazy. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So we only have about 50 minutes total for this show. So
okay.
I'm gonna try and get through. I got a couple things here. There's one thing I kind of did some detective work, and I got a random question, and I know some things about you, but then I don't know everything, obviously. So, but I know you have the Lost Boy tattoo, right? It's Lost Boy somewhere.
Yeah, on my knuckles, I've Lost Boy.
Yeah.
And then over here, second star to the right. Second star is a little bit bigger than the other. Yeah.
So I given your stage persona and first impressions, people would assume that would be more of like a Kiefer Sutherland 1987 Lost Boys play kind of deal, without knowing you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just I would lean more towards that direction, but I know you a little bit, so I'm leaning to obviously I lean more towards Peter Pan. So I guess is it a reference to Peter Pan? And if so, do you like, which I kind of know the answer to this, but if it's a reference to Peter Pan, what other Disney movies do you like?
Yeah, 100% reference to Peter Pan. Just not even necessarily a direct connection to the Disney movie in particular, but just the novel, and even not so much just the novel, more of like a life mission statement, of never growing up, a reminder to never grow up, and I never want to grow up. And part of that, I think, is why I do magic too. Is like it allows me to never have to grow up. I can live in make believe anytime I want. I can share make believe. I can share a metaphorical Neverland with adults or grown people and kids even, as well. I don't want to exclude kids, but magic, and you probably experience this when you guys do your shows too. Like it's a great escape for adults as well, and it's performing magic allows a metaphorical Neverland for them to escape, become a kid again, see something they don't understand, they can't explain, they on and on. We can go on for forever. So, but that's for with magic. But that aside, it is just a never grow up sort of reminder and sort of code that I live by. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it is a Peter Pan thing. Disney definitely has a lot to do with it. Disney as a company, I'm not exactly a fan of, but you know, the what Disney provides me and provided me growing up and currently and everybody else, you know, that experiences Disney magic is the most powerful entertainment sort of thing I've really ever seen. They do it so good. But as far as like Disney movies though, I really there's so many, but in my tops, I'd have to say you know, Sword in the Stone was a favorite of mine growing up. Peter Pan naturally, and then current, you know, more current. Tangled is a really big, you know, probably top tier for sure, top 5, maybe even top 3 movie. I think the music's great. I think the story's great. You know how they adapted Rapunzel. I love the Mother Gothel character in it, and yeah. So yeah, Tangled, and I feel, you know, Tangled, for those listeners, those people watching. Watch Tangled. It kind of got eclipsed by Frozen in a way, but because everybody was, you know, focused on, you know, all the Frozen music and, you know, Olaf and all that. But Tangled, if you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. It's a great, just really well put together, and I love it. It's one I could watch and rewatch over and over, and not have a problem.
Okay, so we're running real short here, so I wanna play.
Sorry, I'll try and keep my answer short. I go.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I'll figure this out. So here's our question. I'm gonna play this. Let me know if you can hear it.
Hey Dan, this is Ashton. How are you? I hope you and Mr. Spikebones are doing well during this time. I just wanted to hijack Reed's podcast for a minute and ask a couple questions myself. First, I have seen you doing this new series on YouTube called Anti-Conjuror Storytime, where you are reading children's books. Now, this completely took me by surprise, but I am loving every minute of it. But my question is, what in the world made you want to start doing that series? And lastly, I am a huge big-time coffee lover and was hoping that one day your brand, Zombie Java, will come out with a blueberry flavor. Is there any hope for that in the future? Because I need that in my life. Well, that's all for me. It was great talking to you. Give Spike some extra head rubs from me. See you later.
So yeah, that was obviously my better half.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll try and make my answer short. So story time happened. I came across those were actually books. The Little Golden Book series. Again, you know, Disney. Again, getting back to Disney. But those are books exactly that belonged to my uncle and my father when they were growing up, and my grandmother would read these to me, and somehow my dad obtained them, and a couple survived, and I found them in a box, and I just kept them for memory's sake, and then I forgot about them, and it happened during, you know, the quarantine. I was cleaning through, just going through, like, all right, I got to start going through some of this stuff. You know, what am I going to keep? What am I going to get rid of? And yeah, see, you get it too. You got them. And I came across some of these books, and some of them I started kind of flipping through, and I went, oh my God, like as a kid, I didn't think anything of it, but some of the writing is like a little like, whoa, buddy, you know, because it came out in like the late 40s, early 50s. It's like, whoa, okay. You know, no harm, I don't think, was meant, but they talked different back then, you know. And so, you know, like one of them was about a little boy that's a cowboy, and he's, you know, scalping Indians or something. I don't know, you know, but it's just like, what? They wrote this, you know? So I was laughing about it, and I just had this idea of like, man, like if public access, you know, because public access doesn't exist. Unfortunately, we're probably the last generation that remembers public access shows and how just gritty and gnarly and gross they could be. And I missed public access shows. And I was like, if public access still existed, you know what? I would totally do this on public access. This is just ridiculous. And so I wanted to recreate the feeling of public access shows. And that's kind of why I did. It was just really for me and for fun. And that's it, just as like an art project. And as far as the coffee goes, blueberry, no way is blueberry going to happen. I used to do banana cream, and that stunk. It smelled so bad, because when you get a single bag of it, that's different. It smells like banana cream pie. But when I'm stocking it and I have all these bags of coffee, stocked and shipping out, it amplifies, and it just smells like monkey breath. And it was awful. It was not for me. It's not for me.
All right. We've got one more question here. I'm not going to respond too much to that one. It's going to take too much time.
Okay.
Hi, Dan. My name's Mary Beth Abney, and I'm from Mount Olivet, Kentucky. And I was wondering what your most difficult illusion to learn was.
Oh yeah, man, that's
Those questions are always hard. Like it's because you can't explain it accurately.
Yeah, that is difficult because without giving too much away.
What's the thing you spent the most time on that's been the most time consuming, that's just taken you so long? Maybe you're still working on, maybe you've been working on, obviously,
Yeah, really like manipulation based magic, sleight of hand stuff, but in particular like stuff with card manipulation and billiard ball manipulation, that classic stuff. Even to this day, I'm not that skilled at it. I'm still very elementary level, even though I've been practicing. I used to be better at it, but then I quit doing it for a while, brought it back. But I would practice probably 4 hours. I used to practice 3 hours twice a week, because I remember I would watch wrestling. I'd watch WWE, at the time WWF, and I would sit in front of the TV, watch wrestling, and practice on the couch as I'd watch TV. But now, back then, you're 15, 16. What else are you gonna be doing?
Yeah.
So that's it. Now adult responsibilities take over. Oh wait, I gotta go get groceries. I gotta go put gas in the car. That time starts condensing, and you try and cherry pick what you want to put more effort into, because instead of like a lot of magic, you spend so much time working on something that the audience never sees. So they're unaware. They never see it, because it's a lot of behind the scenes effort. So yeah, probably I'd have to say the card manipulation type stuff.
I agree with that aspect. So we're obviously we're gonna have to cut everything off here and end it. Do you have any last minute things you want to plug? Your social media, tell people how they can, you're doing virtual shows now, how they can find that stuff?
Yeah. My website, dansperry.com. That's, that portals to everything. Instagram at Dan Sperry, Facebook at Dan Sperry Official, because there's a couple fake pages and stuff like that, as it goes. So don't look at those. Dan Sperry Official, that's the real one. If you want to see what I'm doing on YouTube with the children's story time, like Ashton was talking about, or I'm doing a new gaming series that's going to be going live once a week. It's me and some buddies of mine that we started. The way we could communicate and interact during this quarantine was through this online game thing that we just came across. And we're not gamers; we know nothing about it, but we just started playing each other. Apparently a bunch of little kids play this game too. We thought we were cool that we found this game, and then we quickly discovered it's little kids that play this game called Fortnite. And so we battle like 13-year-olds on Fortnite, and they murder us every time. So we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to start streaming that. So just just follow me online. Even if you're not a gamer or into watching gaming, we've created we've written and been working on this live interactive show that's probably it's going to be worth checking out. I think we're doing something completely different for gaming, because we're not gamers, so we don't know what we're doing. We're entertainers, so we're basing it on entertainment. And other than that, when we come out of the gate, there's an app called Bands in Town, and you can follow me on Bands in Town as well, and you'll get notified anytime I'm coming through or in the area, or tickets are sold for whatever. So those are the main outlets, you know.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I guess it's about that time. We're running out of time here. We got a 50-minute about a 50-minute time limit here on WCYN 101.3. My name is Reed Masterson. This has been the second episode of Quarantainment, the socially distant podcast. You've been listening to me, my friend Dan Sperry, and a bunch of crazy stories. Stay creative, guys. Dan, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, herzlichen Dank. Thank you.
You've been listening to Quarantainment, a socially distant podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, retweet, share, comment, and anything else you can do from at least 6 feet away. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay home, and above all else, stay creative. Join us next week. Same time, same place, same host, new interviews. For more info on the entire Quarantainment series of events, visit mastersonsmagic.com.